I, 25M, have been dating Annie, 25F, for almost 3 years now. We met when she was babysitting my younger brothers Tom, 12, and Sam, 10. My mom hired her when I was away at college, and when I came back home after graduating, I started accompanying my brothers to the park sometimes because mom was worried about them being out alone even with a babysitter. That's how Annie and I got to know each other. Annie was great with my brothers. She helped them with homework, played games with them, and always made sure they were safe and happy. I noticed how patient and kind she was, not just with them but with everyone around her. After about 4 to 5 months of seeing each other at the park and talking, we started dating. The problem is her dad Brock is extremely overprotective and controlling, and that's putting it mildly. We've been dating secretly because he hates the idea of her dating anyone. He's had this rule since she was a teenager, no dating until she finishes college and starts her career. But now she's 25 and he still hasn't changed. Annie tried to mention me to her dad a few times casually. She would talk about me as the brother of the kids she babysat, hoping he would warm up to the idea. But he completely shut down any conversation that hinted at romance. He believes relationships would interfere with her education and career. He's currently paying for her college and has promised to give her a property once she graduates. I don't want to come between her and these opportunities because they would benefit her in the long run. Getting in the way would only prove her dad right about me being a distraction. Annie has a complicated relationship with her dad. Her mom passed away from cancer when Annie was just 8 years old. Since then, her dad became extremely controlling. He monitored everything she did, who she talked to, where she went. She wasn't allowed to go to sleepovers or school trips. He even made her change schools in 10th grade when he found out she had a crush on someone. He installed tracking apps on her phone, checked her messages and emails, and even her internet history. She's had a few relationships before me but they all ended because the guys couldn't handle the secrecy and her dad's controlling behavior. One guy tried to confront her dad and it ended badly. Her dad threatened to get a restraining order. Another guy suggested she cut ties with her dad but she couldn't because she was financially dependent on him. She's been upfront with me about everything from the start. When things got serious between us, she asked if I was ready to deal with all this. I said yes because I love her and understand relationships aren't always perfect. We used to meet 2 to 3 times a week initially when she was babysitting my brothers. But her dad somehow found out she was spending time with me. Maybe someone saw us together and told him, or maybe he just got suspicious because she seemed happier. He forced her to quit the babysitting job immediately. He threatened to kick her out and stop paying for her education if she continued seeing me. Now we only meet once or twice every 2 months, and even that feels risky. We communicate through a secret chat app because her dad has access to all her messages, social media, and location through some iPhone family sharing thing. He checks her regular texts, calls, and even her Instagram DMs. The secret chat doesn't show up on his phone so it's our only safe way to talk. She's planning to move out next year after graduating and getting the property. She believes we can have a normal relationship then, though she knows her dad will still try to control her life. The secrecy is really getting to me though. We're too old for this teenage drama but I understand her situation. My parents know about her and are supportive but worried. My mom thinks I'm putting my life on hold for someone who might never be able to break free from her dad's control. She suggests I move on and find someone whose family accepts me. But Annie is different from anyone I've ever dated. We connect on so many levels and have similar goals and values. Her dad is successful and well respected in the community. He owns several businesses and sits on the board of local charities. He's a self-made man who worked hard to give Annie a good life after her mom died. I understand he wants the best for her but his methods are extreme. Annie feels he owes her for all the emotional damage he's caused, so she's playing along until she gets what was promised. She now works as a caregiver for an elderly lady near my workplace. Sometimes we meet at a local park during her breaks but we have to be careful because her dad often picks her up unexpectedly. He says it's because he worries about her safety, but we know he's just checking up on her. I've thought about confronting him but Annie says it would make everything worse. He might force her to quit this job too or send her to live with relatives in another state. We've had amazing times together when she manages to sneak away for dates. We write letters to each other through the secret chat expressing our feelings since we both struggle with verbal communication sometimes. But lately I've been feeling hopeless about our future. I love her but don't know how much longer I can do this. This constant hiding and sneaking around is exhausting. Sometimes I wonder if I'm being selfish by staying in her life when it could cost her everything. I just needed to get this off my chest. Am I wrong for wanting to end this relationship even though we love each other? Should I stick it out until she can stand up to her dad? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1: Things got much worse after my last post. Last week, I found out that Annie's dad hired a private investigator to follow her. He had been suspicious for a while because Annie seemed happier lately and was always checking her phone. He noticed she took longer lunch breaks at work and sometimes came home later than usual. The PI followed her for about a week and took photos of us meeting at the park. There were pictures of us sitting on a bench talking, walking together, and one where I hugged her goodbye. The PI also dug into my background and found out where I worked, lived, and even details about my family. Her dad confronted her with the photos one evening. He was furious and started yelling about how she was throwing away her future. Annie panicked and made up a story about me being just a friend who worked nearby. She said we occasionally had lunch together and she didn't tell him because she knew he would overreact like this. Her dad didn't believe her at first, especially because of the hugging photo. But Annie stuck to her story. She said I was going through a rough time that day and she was just being supportive. She even showed him our secret chat app, which she had cleverly disguised as a work communication tool. We had been careful to keep our messages professional looking just in case something like this happened. The next day, her dad showed up at my workplace unannounced. I was in a meeting when our receptionist told me someone was insisting on seeing me. I wasn't expecting to see him there and was completely caught off guard. He waited until we were alone in the parking lot and then started threatening me. He told me he knew about my previous relationships and claimed I had a pattern of pursuing vulnerable women. He said he had talked to my ex-girlfriends, which was a lie because I'm still friends with most of them. He threatened to make things difficult for me at work and in the community if I didn't stay away from Annie. I wanted to defend myself and our relationship, but remembered Annie's warning about making things worse. So I just listened and let him think whatever he wanted. But his words really got to me. He made it seem like I was some predator pursuing his innocent daughter, when in reality, we're both adults capable of making our own decisions. Annie was devastated when I told her about this. She broke down crying and wanted to go confront her dad immediately. She was tired of living under his control and said she was ready to tell him everything. But I convinced her not to. We're so close to her graduation, just a few more months and she'll have her degree and the property. Then she can be free of his control. We agreed to be even more careful now. We deleted our old secret chat app and found a new one that's more secure. We reduced our meetings even more. Now we only see each other when she can make absolutely sure her dad won't find out. She changed her work schedule slightly so her lunch breaks don't align with mine anymore. The situation is affecting her mental health badly. She's become anxious and paranoid about being followed. She constantly looks over her shoulder when we're together. She's scared her dad might check her phone while she's sleeping, so she started hiding it in different places every night. She's even having trouble sleeping and eating properly. My family is really concerned now. My mom thinks her dad might try to harm me physically or try to get me fired from my job. She's worried he might vandalize my car or house. My brothers miss Annie and keep asking when she'll come back to babysit them. I had to tell them she found another job, but they know something's wrong. Annie's aunt, her mom's sister, called her yesterday. Apparently, her dad has been telling the family that Annie is being manipulated by some guy who's trying to take advantage of her. Her aunt was worried and wanted to know what was really going on. Annie told her everything. To our surprise, her aunt was understanding and even offered to help if things got worse. For now, we're just trying to get through each day. Annie has her final exams coming up and needs to focus on those. We're hoping her dad will back off once he sees we're not meeting anymore. But it's hard. Every time her phone rings or someone walks past us in public, we both freeze. I love Annie more than anything, but seeing her suffer like this is killing me. She keeps saying it will all be worth it in the end, but I'm not so sure anymore. How can someone treat their own daughter like this? All we want is to be together like a normal couple. Is that too much to ask? I'll update again if anything changes. Thank you for all the supportive comments on my last post. It helps to know we're not alone in this. Update 2: Annie graduated last week with honors. She finally got her degree in business management and her dad transferred the property to her name as promised. We thought this would be our turning point, that things would finally get better. But life had other plans for us. Her dad threw a big graduation party at their house. He invited all their relatives, family friends, and business associates. Annie was uncomfortable with such a big celebration but went along with it because she thought this would be her last time pretending everything was fine. During the party, her dad clinked his glass and asked for everyone's attention. Annie thought he was going to give a normal graduation speech. Instead, he announced her engagement to Mike, 28M, his best friend's son, in front of everyone. The whole room erupted in applause while Annie stood there frozen. Mike is a corporate lawyer who works with her dad. He's successful, comes from a good family, and her dad thinks he's perfect for Annie. They want the wedding to happen within 6 months. Annie was completely blindsided. She didn't even know her dad was planning this. After the party, Annie tried to reason with her dad. She told him she wasn't ready for marriage and wanted to focus on her career first. He wouldn't listen. He said she was being ungrateful and that he had already given her time to focus on education. Now it was time for her to settle down. Mike started showing up at their house regularly. He would bring expensive gifts and talk about their future together. Annie tried to be polite but distant. Her dad kept pushing them to spend time together and even suggested they go on chaperone dates. Finally, after a particularly pushy evening where Mike tried to hold her hand and her dad beamed at them from across the room, Annie snapped. She stood up and told them both the truth. She said she was already in love with someone else and had been dating me for 3 years. She said she wouldn't marry Mike or anyone else because she wanted to be with me. Her dad completely lost it. He started throwing things and screaming about how she had betrayed him. He called her ungrateful and manipulative. He tried to take back the property but legally couldn't since it was already in her name. So he kicked her out of the house right then and there. He didn't even let her pack her things properly. Annie called me crying from the street. I immediately went to pick her up. She only had her purse and the clothes she was wearing. We went back to my apartment and I called my parents. They were hesitant about her moving in with me but agreed after hearing what happened. Her dad has been calling and messaging everyone in the family telling them how Annie betrayed him. He's painting me as some manipulator who turned his daughter against him. He's telling people I'm only after their family money and property. Most of her relatives are siding with her dad. They're calling her ungrateful and telling her to apologize and agree to the marriage. They're saying she's throwing away a perfect match for some nobody. Only her aunt is supporting her. She revealed that Annie's mom had also been forced into marriage with her dad and that's why their marriage was unhappy. She said Annie's mom would have wanted her to follow her heart. Mike turned out to be just as controlling as her dad. He keeps messaging Annie saying she's confused and that he can forgive her if she comes back now. He talks about how he can give her a better life than me, how she's making a huge mistake. His family is also pressuring her, saying she's ruining their son's reputation. We've started looking for our own place because my apartment is too small for both of us. Annie is still shaken but says she feels relieved that everything is out in the open. She's sad about losing her family but says she couldn't live a lie anymore. I'll update again when things settle down. Right now we're just trying to figure out our next steps and deal with all the drama one day at a time. Update 3: Things have been intense since my last update. Annie's dad tried everything possible to break us up. He spread rumors in their community about how I had manipulated Annie and turned her against her family. People who used to smile at her now look away when they see us together. He didn't stop there. He started sending anonymous complaints to my workplace about my behavior and work ethic. My boss called me in for a meeting about these complaints. Thankfully, my work record was clean and my boss knew about my situation, so he was understanding. Annie's dad even showed up at my parents' house one evening. He tried to convince them that Annie was making a mistake and they should talk some sense into me. When that didn't work, he started threatening them, saying he would make sure our whole family regretted this. My dad had to threaten to call the police before he left. Despite all this, we're doing okay. Annie got a job at a marketing firm and she's really good at it. We're managing fine financially. The property her dad gave her is rented out and provides some extra income. We're planning to move to another city soon for a fresh start. Her aunt is helping us look for places and has been our biggest support through everything. Mike, the guy she was supposed to marry, turned out to be exactly like her dad. He keeps messaging her from different numbers since she blocked his main one. He says things like how she's making the biggest mistake of her life and that he can give her everything I can't. He even showed up at her workplace once, but security escorted him out. Annie filed a complaint with HR and they banned him from the premises. Her dad finally backed off after we sent him a cease and desist letter through our lawyer. He sent Annie one final message saying she was dead to him and he never wanted to see her again. He said she was no longer his daughter and to never contact him or anyone in the family again. Annie was hurt but says she feels free for the first time in her life. We're getting married next month in a small ceremony. Only close friends, my family, and her aunt will attend. Annie says she doesn't need her dad's blessing or a big fancy wedding. She just wants to be with someone who loves her for who she is, not what they want her to be. She's started seeing a therapist to deal with all the emotional trauma from years of her dad's controlling behavior. It's helping her understand that none of this was her fault. She's learning to set boundaries and stand up for herself. Our relationship is stronger than ever. The struggles we went through only brought us closer together. Annie says she has no regrets about choosing me, even though it cost her family. We're looking forward to starting our new life together in a new city, away from all this drama. I learned that sometimes loving someone means fighting for them, even when things get tough. Annie showed me what real strength looks like. Despite everything her dad did, she never let him break her spirit.